Hey Conk fam, so here is our next project, Amazing Spider-Man number 300. I showed this on a What's in the Box, and we're going to try to remove this stain here. So I've already gotten started and I removed the staples already. If you look at the inside, it does have a little bit of tanning. Our pages aren't as white as we would like, but you can barely see the stain that has come through right here, so I'm not going to worry about the inner wraps. You can see it a little bit more here on the back. Again, I'm not going to worry about all that. The main thing that detracts is this obvious stain right here. And if we look at the back, it's a black cover, but we can see it clearly right here in the red. And if we open it up, we can clearly see the stain, and we actually see how it's come down a bit, but that's the black part, so you actually can't see it on the back here. So we are going to clean this, and to do that we are going to use a mixture of calcium hydroxide with peroxide and of course distilled water and some blue light. All right, Conk fam, so here, I'll move the camera down a little bit. Jack is of course helping. I have 150 milliliters of distilled water, and to that I'm going to add 50 milliliters of calcium hydroxide. Thank you, Jack. And move out of the way. People want to see this. This is my bottle of calcium hydroxide. You can see I got it marked. And we're going to put in 50 milliliters. All right, so that gives us 200 milliliters. So that'll be a 25% concentration of calcium hydroxide to distilled water. And you can see it's clear because if you let your calcium hydroxide settle correctly, I'll show again, and this has some calcium buildup, but it is completely clear, and you can see the leftover calcium hydroxide in the bottom, so that way you know it's super saturated. And then what I do is I pour off and keep me a big bottle of calcium hydroxide when I'm doing a lot of washes. I have my 3% solution of peroxide, and what I want is this to be 1%. So of course you just divide this by 3, and that tells you how much to pour in. It comes out to around 66 milliliters. We're only going to put in 50. So what you should see is this turn white because it'll have a chemical reaction. Jack. Yep. Thought it turned white. It probably is not at a high enough concentration to react, but what happens is when you mix hydrogen peroxide with calcium peroxide, you actually end up with calcium peroxide. Sometimes if you have a high enough concentration of calcium, it'll actually turn the liquid cloudy. So I'm going to spin it a little bit, and then I have a freshly clean misting bottle, and I'm going to pour in here. And I'm only going to use this once, and I don't really need a lot. And I'm going to throw the rest away, because anything with peroxide you need to have, that's why peroxide comes in these darker bottles to where light can't get to it, because the light will actually cause a reaction. But I'm going to pour this out when I'm done with it. So now I can give it a better shake. And yeah, whether you can see it on camera or not, it is becoming just a little bit cloudy, and that's because of the calcium. All right, So we're going to try and move Jack around and see if we can lay our book out. All right, we need a piece of Hollytex. We need our cover, and I'm going to lay it face up for now. Here's my mixture. Thank you, Jack. That needed to be on the floor. Now, it's not super important that we get this crazy flat because of what we're going to do. And then we'll hit the spots. Still need some water. All right, once I'm happy with that, we're going to turn it over. I'm just going to make sure the cover's nice where I want it. Be really careful because wet paper is weak paper. All right. And we will use the patented Jerry method. Spreading that out. All right, and then we'll soak parts that we didn't get, that we didn't quite get. All right, and we'll make sure it's good and damp. Where it's actually kind of puffing up, which it is. All right. And we got it like we want it. And now we're going to add our blue light. Now I'm going to let this sit in the blue light for about 30 minutes. Check on it, wet it again if necessary, and then do it for another 30 minutes and etc. So, all right, so stay tuned for all that. All right, so this is after my second 30 minutes. You can see a lot of the moisture has been evaporated or absorbed. And I don't know about y'all, but I definitely think we have reduced this quite a bit. Let's take a look at the front. Hello, Jack. I do not see any of the front, where from the front. Oh, Jack. So I think we're going to call it there. All right, comic fam. So here is our Spider-Man 300. Jack. So our stain, Jack, please. So our stain is completely removed, as you can see. Jack. Scoot over for a second. Oh, anyway. And you can also see from the inside, hopefully The stain is 100% removed. So we're very happy with that. You can see it's removed from there and removed from there. So great success, very happy, and yeah, it looks beautiful. So let's talk a little bit more about this. All right, Kong fam. So get Jack in the picture here. All right, so had great success with the Spider-Man 300, but I did want to point out there were 3 options we could have done here with this book. All right, so the first would be a heat overlay press, where we would have taken just some simple copy paper, wet it down completely, used SRP, laid it on each side of the cover, and put in the heat press. However, the stain was up near the top corner, and I felt like I wouldn't be able to reach that very edge where the spine is. Jack. I wouldn't be able to reach the very edge where the spine is because you're not removing the staples or the cover. And yeah, so I just did not choose the hop method. The second I'm going to call the Captain Larry method, because it is a method he used for a Ghost Rider book that had a very, very similar stain. And he did a very traditional method where remove the cover, did a wash, and then just did our normal, you know, drying and pressing and things like that. Completely valid method. However, this book, and like I've talked about before, if you go back and look at when I was a guest on the Comic Book Conservation Group's Sunday show, is you need to understand your book. And this book is from the early 90s. These books were not made very well. The cover, sometimes if you do that type of aqueous bath where you completely submerge it, can do damage to the cover. These things can just basically turn into toilet paper. Third method, I'm going to call the Dr. Paul method. This is a method he used with an Avengers #1. Now, that's a Silver Age book, and he was concerned about doing a full immersion bath. And I actually talked to him about this book, and he suggested that we do exactly what I did, which was lay it in between 2 pieces of Hollytex, use the spray bottle method, and you see I got great results. Leaving the comic a little bit wet, and then using a blue LED treatment. And as you could see, it came out great. We removed the stain completely and had a great book. Now, the one issue I did have, out, you know, complete transparency, is I did end up with a little bit of a crease on the cover. You know, I hate it, but it did happen, and it looks a little bit like a printer's crease. That is 100% my fault. And the reason why is because of my Hollytex. I don't think you can see it in the picture that I'm showing here, but Hollytex will have a tendency to stretch over time. Now, you can reuse it quite a bit. Jack, you can reuse it quite a bit, but I think you can see it. Some of the ripples in the Hollytex, and then this is the piece I actually used, and there is a crease in my Hollytex here. I did not notice that. So while you can reuse Hollytex over and over, it will have a tendency over time to stretch, develop these ripples. And what will happen is those ripples will carry over to your book, just like it did with me. So it is 100% my fault. I should have paid better attention to what Hollytex I was using. It's probably a good idea I go ahead and get rid of some of these older pieces of Hollytex. Now, if you're unfamiliar of how Hollytex comes, just a second. Hollytex comes in these huge rolls. And yeah, it is difficult to lay and cut and such. So I do tend to reuse my Hollytex for a long period of time. And you can tell how many videos I have of conservation, of get an idea of how often I've reused this Hollytex. And I probably have like 12 or so pieces of Hollytex that I've cut. So it is time for me to stretch this out and try to cut me some fresh Hollytex. Keep the tools that you use in great shape. And, you know, I tend to, and have always fully admitted this, Jack, just my personality is I don't have the greatest patience sometimes when it comes to these things. And so I really do have to stop, take my time, take some breaths, and before I get started, and get myself focused in on what I'm doing. And that's just me. I do love doing this conservation. I do love comic books. I think my passion for that shows through, but just my personality is I need to take a little bit more time. All right. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did enjoy it, please, hey, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can not miss an episode. But with that, Jack and I are going to say peace, love, and comics. Bye all.